This is the video going over the Chapter 6 free response on the review in the year 2023-24. Since I have a bunch of videos, this will help me keep track. All right, so this first problem, the main thing to look at on here to start off with is to notice that it's not binomial. There are not only two options. So this is a generic random variable. We cannot use any of our binomial tricks for this. Okay, so on that note, I'm going to remind you that the formula sheet that you will get on the test is very helpful in this chapter. And it's not binomial, so we are narrowing it down right now to these two equations. So let's talk through those because they are in sigma notation, which can be kind of intimidating if you're not used to it. First of all, side note, that E stands for expected value. That's another phrase to mean the mean of a random variable. So know that phrase because you could have a question that says, what's the expected value? And you have to know that that means the mean. Okay, so let's go through what these different things mean. That funky looking E is a capital sigma, and it means to sum them up, to add them up. The xi is your x values, the top row of your table, and the p of xi is your probabilities to go with those x values. So it's kind of like function notation, p of x, probabilities of those x's. So that means for this formula, they just want you to take your x values, like your first x value times its probability, and then do that for all the columns, and then add them up. That's what that means. The standard deviation one is similar, but just more complicated. So we have all our x values, we have all our probability values. It does have the mean in there, which you need to have gotten from your previous problem. So in these problems, they always ask you to find the mean first because you need the mean to do the standard deviation. And then you're adding them all up and then doing a giant, oh, and there's a square in there and a square root. So for these problems, there's two things you have to know how to do. One is how to read these equations on the formula sheet and write out your work, show your work. That is 4 points. And then separately, you need to know how to go to your calculator and make your calculator actually do the math. So two totally separate skills that work together.
Malaya Dorothy, your ride is here.
Can you tell I'm recording this after school? Okay, so let's do it now with this problem. So compute the mean and standard deviation, show work. So the mean basically means multiply these, separately multiply these, separately multiply these, separately multiply these, and then add them up. That's what the formula is telling you to do. Now, I won't make you write out all of that because it takes forever. You can just write out the first term. So 0 times 0.4 plus ... to kind of show the pattern of what you would have done. And for standard deviation, you can do square root 0 minus the mean, which we'll get in a second here, squared times 0.4 plus ... So that is perfectly fine instead of writing out all the terms. Okay, so now I'm going to go to my calculator and I'm going to put these guys in L1. I'm going to put these guys in L2. And then once I've done that, I'm going to go to stat, calc, 1 var stats. And I need to put in L1, L2. If you have an older calculator, you actually have to type in L1, L2. If you have a newer calculator, they'll just prompt you for those things. Okay, so I'm going to pause and I'll do that. And I'll come back. Okay, I just did it on my calculator. This is actually a problem from an old AP test, and they got weirdly neat answers. So the mean is 1 and the standard deviation is 1. Because the mean is the x bar value and the standard deviation is the sigma x value. Okay, so that's that, 1 and 1. Okay, part B, now they're not giving you a chart, they're just telling you the mean and standard deviation. So this is the mean and this is the standard deviation. Those will be useful. They assume they're independent. What is the mean and standard deviation of the total number of tickets, adult and child together? So now we are combining random variables together. So this is going into those rules that we wrote down around what happens to the mean and standard deviation when you multiply by a number and combine them and all that stuff. Okay, so combining, the means are intuitive. So the means, you just add them. We're adding adult plus child customers. So 1 plus 2, so 3. And then the standard deviations are not intuitive. You cannot add the standard deviations directly. You have to square them to get variances, add those, and then square root to get back to standard deviations. So my first standard deviation is 1 squared plus 1.2 squared. And then square root that to get it back to standard deviation. And if I do that on the calculator, I get 1.56. Okay. So C, now we're multiplying by numbers. Whatever the number of child tickets is, we're multiplying it times 15 to get the cost, and the adult ticket times 25 to get the cost. So now compute the mean and standard deviation of the total amount. So I'm going to tackle these separately. I'm going to look at just the child one first. When you multiply or divide a random variable by a number, or by our patterns, both the mean and the standard deviation multiply by that number. So we are going to do, what was it? Mean of the child ones was 1. So 1 times 15. So $15. That makes sense. If on average you sell one child ticket and it costs $15, you get $15. Okay, the adult. Oh, maybe I'll go do the standard deviation for child. Okay, so this is the mean. This is standard deviation. So standard deviation for the child was also 1. It's also going to be times 15. Standard deviation does change when you multiply. That's $15. Okay, adult. The mean was 3. No, it wasn't. It was 2 times $25, so $50. And the standard deviation was 1.2 times $25. That's $30. Okay, so now I can combine those together. Means are intuitive, so total, I can just add them together. 15 plus 50, or $65 for your mean. I guess I kind of made a chart here. And then for standard deviation, you cannot add them directly, but you have to square them and add those variances and then square root that. Square root of 15 squared plus 30 squared is $33.54. All right, that's that problem. Now to move over to my second problem. This is binomial because she either gets it in or doesn't. There's 2 outcomes here. So let's, on part A here, actually back that up with all 4 parts of bins. So, and I need more than just BINS, check, 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 check. I need an actual explanation. So it is binary because it's in or out. Or I'm just going to say not in. So success or fail. She gets it in or doesn't. Independent. Because it's stated up above. Number of trials is fixed. So assume she serves exactly 6 times. So number of trials is fixed. Specifically n equals 6. And S is for same probability, specifically 0.57. Okay, so there's my bins. Now on to B. What's the probability she gets all these different things? Okay, so these are all binom PDF and binom CDF situations. So show work. We don't want to write down calculator speak. That will not get points. But writing down the equations as if you did it by hand and then go use the calculator to get the answer. That's what we're going to do. So all 6 serves in. So binomial here. So out of 6, she gets 6 in. 6 choose 6. 0.57 to the 6th. She got 6 successes. 1 minus 0.57, that's a failure, and she got 0 of those. So that's your work. Now, on the side, I don't know, on the side, you wouldn't necessarily write this down. You're going to go find out what that is on the calculator. Go to binom PDF. Out of 6 serves with a 57% chance of getting it in, she gets 6 successes. So, and this is under second vars, which is distribution. So second vars, binom PDF, 6.576, paste, you get a 0.034. She has a 3.5% chance of making all 6. Okay, now we got to pay attention to wording here. Exactly 4 of the 6 serves in. So exactly is still binom PDF. 6 out of 4. 4 or 6 choose 4. 4 successes out of 6 trials. Still 0.57, but it's to the 4th now. And this is 6 minus 4 or 2. There's 4 successes and 2 failures. So again, I go to binom. Binom PDF 6.574. Is 0.293. She has a 29% chance of getting exactly 4 serves in. Okay, at least 4 serves. So pay attention to that. At least 4. That's different than exactly. So at least 4. Let's think about what that means. Okay, so possibilities. She could get 0 serves in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. Those are all the possibilities of what she could get in. At least 4 means she's getting 4, 5, or 6. So you could, well, for showing your work, it's probably easiest to do this. Same thing as up above. Minus 0.57 squared. And I'm going to say plus ... to 6, 6. 6 choose 6. What is that? 0.43, because I'm running out of room. 0. You have options on your calculator. You could either do binom PDF of 4 and 5 and 6 and add that up. Or I'm going to use a shortcut and use CDF, because binom CDF is that value and everything below it. And we have to be a little bit sneaky here because it's that value and everything below it, not above, but below. So I am going to find this. And I'm going to find it with binom CDF 6.573. So all the ones I don't want. And then I'm going to go 1 minus that to get all the ones I do want. So that's going to be my trick. You could do PDF of all three values and add it up as well. That also totally works. It just takes a little bit longer, but who cares? Okay, so 6.573. And I get 0.4823. Okay. Okay, so now I'm gonna do the last one, no more than 4 of the 6 serves in. Okay, so I'm gonna think again. These are all your possibilities. No more than 4. Well, that means 4 and everything below it. No more than 4 means not 5 and 6. Okay, so I'm gonna go for showing my work. I'm gonna say 6 choose 0, 0.57 to 0, 0.43 to the 6, plus ... would end at 4. So 6 choose 4, 0.574, 0.432. So that's showing my work, equals, and then I would go to, on my calculator, binom CDF 6.574. And I get 0.810. Okay. 5. Yeah. So you, again, could have done binom PDF of 0 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. So done it 5 times and added those up. That totally works. CDF is just a nice shortcut. All right, and then the last one is actually super easy if you remember that you have equations for this. Because we learned this at the very end of the chapter and your brains were very tired and full. So if you need to find the mean and standard deviation of a binomial situation, there are formulas for that on your sheet. Let's pull them up. Well, so here's binomial. By the way, remember here is the binomial equation. So you know what to plug in where. Here's the mean equation and here's the standard deviation equation. And all they involve is the number of trials and the probability of success. Okay, so let's go back to here. If I go slow, my computer won't freak out. Okay, so mean is n times p. So 6 times 0.57. We expect her to make 57% of her 6 tries, which would end up being on average 3.42. The standard deviation, n times p times 1 minus p, so 6 times 0.57 times 0.43. Which ends up being 1.213. And there we go. Also be aware that you on the test, you will have to interpret these guys. So so to say that verbally, after many, many, many tries, she would make on average 3.42 serves in out of 6. And after many, many, many tries, her number of serves in out of 6 would typically vary by 1.2 away from 3.42. So that will be part of the test as well. Be ready to do that. All right, I think I'm good and my voice is done.